Qualifiers for the 2023 World Baseball Classic are now behind us. In the last few weeks, 12 countries were split into two separate pools. 2 countries from each pool qualified for the WBC, joining the 16 countries that were there for the 2017 edition. Though it's not as important as the main tournament, you go into this hoping that the qualifiers will attract a lot of attention. You want to see a big crowd of people in the stands, more people watching from their homes. You want to bring in new fans and even new countries. You want the event to run smoothly, easy for people to watch. Good competition on the field, not dominated by 1 or 2 countries. So, how did it all go? Well, it depends on how you look at it. There are some things to be optimistic about, other things to be disappointed about. Depends on the country, too. For some of the countries involved, it was great for the sport and for the event itself. Other countries, not so much. Though I don't think the game took a step backwards in any country. It certainly missed an opportunity or failed to meet expectations in some places. I know I'm a little late here. The last qualifier ended over a week ago, but I was concentrated on the start of the postseason last week. I wanted to get this out before the event gets too far behind us. It started off as an evaluation of how the tournament was run. Then I started thinking about other things that resulted from the event, and some things that just happened. Anyway, here we go. One of the brightest spots was the broadcasting. It was available on YouTube, Facebook, and the official WBC site, totally free, and it was on TV in most of the participating countries. The camera work was good, the announcers did a great job, an overall good viewing experience. I don't know what kind of numbers to expect as far as viewers are concerned, especially when they've got a few different viewing options, but the numbers on YouTube were always in the thousands, as high as 15,000 for some games. Seems like they did alright when counting the viewers. But not good at all when counting the people in attendance. That applies to both qualifiers. Attendance for the Pool A qualifier in Germany was 11,069 over 9 games, for an average of 1,230 per game. Compare that to the last time a qualifier was held in Germany, in 2013, when they averaged 2,864 over 6 games, and it was down from the average attendance of all 4 WBC qualifiers that took place in 2017. A couple factors contributed to that. The biggest one was the weather. It was cold and rainy throughout the tournament. I know if you're a diehard fan, a little cold and rain won't keep you away from the ballpark, but in Europe you're going to have a lot of literal fair weather fans. Another factor was a disappointing showing from the home team. The highest attended game was Germany's first game against Britain. It was the only game with attendance over 2,000, but Germany lost that one 8-1. Maybe some fans lost interest after that. Also, the next 2 games Germany played were on weekdays. If they had reached a final qualifying game or played on the weekend again, they probably could have topped that attendance, but the overall average still would have missed expectations. The Pool B qualifier in Panama was a little better. Total attendance was 15,011 for an average of 1,668 per game. But in the 2013 qualifier in Panama, it was 45,194 over 6 games, for an average of 7,532 per game. The highest attendance for any game in this tournament was 6,789. That was Panama's last game against Brazil. Their first game, where they beat Argentina, drew over 5,000. All the other games saw less than 1,000 fans in attendance. A couple contributors here. One is that the host country only played in those 2 games. In the 2013 qualifier, Panama played in 4 of the 6 games, and the other 2 games involved Colombia, which is right next door to Panama. This qualifier had Brazil, Pakistan, and New Zealand. Even Nicaragua isn't so close to Panama. It's nearby, but you have to go through Costa Rica to get there. So you had few fans coming in from abroad, and not many games involving the home team. But even when you just consider the games that Panama was in, the numbers come up way short. In the 2013 qualifier, the highest attended game drew 13,728 fans, more than double the highest attended game in this year's qualifier. Not sure what the reason was for this. Maybe the cost of tickets was higher this time. Maybe it wasn't promoted well enough. I don't have those answers. If you know or have a theory on it, let us know in the comments. Anyway, back to the success stories. And from here on out, I'm not talking about anything the organizers did or didn't do, but just the way things turned out. When the Pool A qualifier was complete, the news was well received in the 2 qualifying countries. For the Czech Republic, this was long overdue. They've been building a strong baseball community there for quite some time. A higher number of fans and participants there than you'll find in most European countries. They were just waiting for a moment like this, when the biggest sports story in the country is about baseball, even if it's just for one day. And no doubt the Czech team's participation in the main tournament next spring will be big news as well, and the Czech League will do everything they can to take advantage of that exposure and bring new fans and players to the game. It made the news in the UK too. There was a big article about it in the Times, and they started showing live MLB games on the BBC. A small number of baseball fans in the UK has been growing steadily over the years. They follow Major League Baseball, filled up the stands for the London series, but perhaps never imagined a British national team qualifying for the WBC and competing among the 20 best countries in the world. Major League Baseball has been trying to gain a stronger following in the UK. and this will only help. And as far as building some excitement in some new countries for the WBC, I'd say these were the right two countries that qualified. I don't think there'd be nearly as much enthusiasm in Spain or France if they had qualified. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think there would be. In the Pool B qualifier, plenty of excitement around the two teams that qualified. But that's nothing new. Panama and Nicaragua have been crazy about baseball for ages, and they were the two highest ranked teams, so it wasn't a big surprise that they made it. The big story in Pool B was the two countries with the lowest expectations going into the qualifier. Argentina greatly exceeded those expectations. In their first ever WBC qualifier, they won their very first game. And yes, their first game was seen as a winnable one. They were up against Pakistan, a country with only a little experience in a WBC qualifier in which they didn't win any games. But as the new face in the tournament, any win in their debut would be seen as a success. They could have gotten blown out in their next two and gone home satisfied, but they didn't. They went on to beat New Zealand, a team that won games in the last two WBC qualifiers. Then their biggest success of the tournament came in their elimination game. They actually led Nicaragua after 5 innings and lost by only 1 run. 1 run away from beating a team that qualified for the WBC. The other country you've got to be excited about is Pakistan, even though they didn't win any games. Their only previous experience on this stage was at the qualifier for the 2017 WBC, where they were beaten by a combined 24-0 in 2 games both called after 7 innings. They suffered one of those this time as well, at the hands of Nicaragua, but even in that loss they were able to hit the ball and didn't commit any errors, something they hadn't done in a qualifier game before. If you go back and watch their 2017 qualifier games, and then watch their games from the recent qualifier, you can see they've improved a lot. And that 7-4 loss in their first game to Argentina, a game they led in the early innings, was looking like a really good loss by the end of the tournament. I'm not sure what kind of excitement this has created in those countries. Are they going to attract more players to the game? Will more people be interested in learning the rules and watching the game? Maybe, maybe not. But one thing is for sure, we've gained 2 new competitive countries. Going into this qualifier, it would have been a shock if Pakistan or Argentina were to upset one of the countries that finished in the top 3. If that happens next time, it won't be so surprising. Just another step forward for these promising countries. And equally important to the tournament itself is the follow-up to it. You've built up some excitement around the game in several different countries, and now you want to build on that momentum, or at least maintain it, and carry that into the big tournament next spring. Too early to judge that, of course, but in the short time since the end of the qualifiers, there's been one big momentum killer, and that is not the fault of the WBC or anyone involved with the organization of the qualifiers or the main tournament, but rather the most recognizable baseball organization in the world. I'm talking about Major League Baseball. Imagine this, these 2 big international tournaments have just ended. You've got a lot of enthusiasm in the baseball communities in several countries, as the World Baseball Classic is just 1 off-season away, and this is all happening just in time for the MLB postseason. Perfect timing, wouldn't you say? So what does MLB do? Blackouts for their international MLB TV customers. That's right, these were fans who signed up for a package that included all postseason games, and they didn't find out until the start of the postseason that the postseason games were no longer available. In countries where this happened, they were able to watch some games on TV, but not all of them like they had been promised with MLB TV. MLB has offered a refund for those affected, but it would have been so much better if they had just honored the terms of the agreement. Not only would it be the right thing to do, but the best way to hold on to those international fans, it's a small number in many countries, is to make sure they can watch as many meaningful games as possible. And I'll say it again, this was not the fault of the WBC or even an indirect result of it. Overall, the qualifiers were run nicely, but for an event like this, where we hope to spread the game further around the world, it's necessary to point out what's helping or impeding that progress. And the big tournament is 5 months away. That's the one they want to be sure to get right. I'm certain attendance won't be a problem. Lots of people around the world are going to watch it. Some countries will surprise, others will disappoint, but it's going to be fun. And it'll be just before the start of the next Major League season. Hopefully the excitement of the 2023 WBC flows right into the new season. Anyway, that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya.